Good morning, grade 10 students. In this session, we're going to continue our lesson about the green plants in week 25. So what are the green plants? Already we said that the green plants, they are plants that contain the green pigment, which is called the chlorophyll. This chlorophyll is a pigment in green plants that absorbs the sunlight and gives the green color of the leaves in the green plant. That's why they look green in color. While these plants, they are called chlorophyllic plants because they contain this pigment, which is the chlorophyll. However, the plants that are missing this chlorophyll, they are called non-chlorophyllic plants. They are non-green in color. We discovered that the green plant, they need four important elements. First element is called the water. So green plant, they need water in order to grow tall and grow green, to grow normally, to grow green in color. All of them, they have the same meaning and they have the same concept and idea. So green plants, they need water in order to grow. The second idea is that the green plants, they need minerals to grow fast. These minerals, they are of many types: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and others. So these minerals, they are important for the growth of the green plant. Also, these minerals can be supplied in the form of fertilizers. Fertilizers, they are a good source of minerals. So they are supplied to the plants in order to grow faster and faster. So they give them these fertilizers. So fertilizers, they are a good source of minerals. Also, we said that the green plant, they need light in order to grow and they remain green in color. So need light and they need the sunlight. So light is important since if they are placed in darkness, these plants won't grow normally, won't stay green in color. And in the coming session, we will talk about the photosynthesis process, what will happen in the photosynthesis process, and what are the consequences of having no light. So this is the third element needed for the growth of the green plant. The first one, the water. The second was the mineral salts. And the third one, it was the light. All right, the fourth one is carbon dioxide, CO2. So carbon dioxide is needed for the growth of the green plant. You know that green plants, they need carbon dioxide to grow. This carbon dioxide is found normally in air. If we put in, with the plant potassium hydroxide, KOH, potassium hydroxide is going to absorb the CO2, so there is no CO2 in the surrounding of the plant. Sure, it will not grow normally and will grow smaller in size, and the leaves will wither, and finally the plant will die. So these notes, they are covered in the previous session. Let's continue for the new ideas. These are the needs for the green plant: the light, the water, CO2, and minerals. Now, let's talk about this experiment, talk about the green plants and water. Observe the following performed experiment to answer the following questions. Here we have three tubes. All of you, please pay attention. You have three tubes: tube A, tube B, and tube C. In tube A, we don't have a plant. There is no plant. So the level of water, it stays the same in both. Before the 2 days and after 2 days, it stays the same. So the level of water doesn't change. So here, the level of water remains the same. Why? Since we don't have a plant. So there is no absorption of water. However, in tube B, we have a plant. This plant contains normally leaves and it has the roots. After 2 days, the level of water, it drops. So the level of water here, it decreases in tube B. While in tube C, we have a plant. This plant contains the the plant and it has leaves and it has stem normally, but it lacks the roots. So there is no roots here. We don't have roots in plant C. So after 2 days, the plant in tube C, the level of water, it remains same. So there is no change in the level of water. First of all, let's start with some questions about this experiment. If I ask you, Celia, what is the variable factor between tubes A and B. So Celia, what is the variable factor between the tubes A and B?
Tube B has a plant while tube A doesn't.
Excellent. So tube A contains a plant while tube B does not contain a plant. So if I ask you, Kemal, what is the variable factor between tubes B and C?
Tube B has a plant with roots, while tube C has a plant with no roots.
Very good. So tube B has a plant with roots, while tube C without roots. Very good. Let's continue with the uh, variable or the difference at the end of the experiment between tubes B and C. So what is the difference between tubes B and C at the end of the experiment, meaning that after 2 days? I want to hear to Sami. Yes, Sami, what do you think? What is the difference between the two tubes B and C after 2 days? Yani at the end of the experiment. What is the difference? Regardless that came and said that plant B, tube B, it contains root, tube
Tube B
C,
absorbed
don't have.
water and tube C didn't.
So tube B, you said that it absorbed the water, meaning that the level of water it increases or decreases?
Decreases.
Decreases, while in tube C,
It stays the same.
it stays the same. Very good. So here in tube B, the level of water it decreases, while in tube C, the level of water remains the same. So if I ask you, Ahmad Farhat, what do you think? What is your conclusion regarding both tubes B and C? What can you conclude? Ahmad Farhat is not here. Ahmad Farhat. Okay, let's have Hamad Watfa. What do you think? What is the conclusion regarding tubes B and C?
Astas,
Yes, what is the difference between both tubes B and C?
انه
At the end of the
B grows.
experiment, the level of water in tube B decreases, while the level in tube C it remains the same. What is the cause for this? Why did the level of water decreases in tube B, while it didn't in tube C?
Because tube B has roots, so C doesn't, so it doesn't
So
absorb water.
your conclusion, which part of the plant absorb the water?
Roots.
Roots, very good. So the roots, they absorb the water. And this is the conclusion from tubes B and C. Now let's move to Samir Bawab. What do you think? What can you say about tube A? What is the role of tube A? What is the
To
role?
compare, it's a control tube to compare the results of the experiment at the
Excellent,
end.
excellent. So tube A is a control tube. Why it's a control? Because it contains no plant. So there is no plant and there is no thing to do. It's only water and it contains clay. This to prevent the evaporation of water due to sunlight and something like this. So they put the clay. So here they have only water and we have the clay. So the level of water it remains the same. So the role of tube A is a control tube. It is used to compare and explain the different experimental results. So let's move to the questions. They said compare both tube A and tube B at the beginning of the experiment. So comparison between tube A and B at the beginning of the experiment, tube A contains no plant, while tube B contains a plant. So this is the difference. What is the role of tube A? As Samir said, tube A is used to compare and explain the different experimental results. 43, they said compare the level of water in tubes A and B and the end of the experiment. So you have to compare, Ya Sharif, the level of water in tubes A and B at the end of the experiment. What can you say about this?
In tubes A and B at the end of the experiment,
Yes.
and tube tube A contained more water than tube B.
The tube A, the level of water remains the same, which is greater than the level of water in tube B, which decreases to a lower level, or it drops down to a lower level. Part 4. What may you conclude from the experiment carried out on tubes A and B? So here, the tube A contains no plant, while tube B, it contains a plant. So what do you think, Fatima? What is the conclusion from tubes A and B only? Yes, the plant, it absorbs the water. So here we have a plant in tube B, and there is no plant in tube A. So the level of water decreases where we have the plant. Here I'm not talking about the roots, I'm not talking about the root hairs or whatever. So I'm talking about only the plant. We have plant in tube B, we don't have plant in tube A. So this is the variable. So the plant, it absorbs the water. So first, compare tube A to tube B at the beginning of the experiment. Both tubes, they contain water, and they are covered by the clay. Tube A contains no plant, while tube B does, contains a plant. What is the role of the tube A? Tube A, it's a control tube. You should study this. What is the role of the control tube, or what is the role of the control experiment? It's used to compare and to explain the different experimental results. 43. Compare the level of water in both tubes A and B at the end of the experiment. So at the end of the experiment, the level of water A in plant A or tube A, which is without a plant. So here, pay attention, I mentioned the variable factor. So level of water in tube A, which is without a plant, it remains the same. However, tube B containing the plant. So here also I mentioned the variable factor, the level of water, it drops down to a lower level. You can say the level of water, it decreases. It's all the same. What may you conclude from the experiments carried out in tubes A and B? So the green plants, they absorb water. Now let's move to part 5. What is the variable between tubes B and C? What do you think about this? I want a new voices here. Yaqub, tubes B and C. So what is the variable factor, Yaqub, between tubes B and C?
The clay water.
The clay water,
لا the
tubes
root.
B and C.
Uh,
Both of
yes,
them, they
the
contain the
roots.
plant. Both of them, they contain leaves. Both of them, they contain the stem. But the difference is the plant B contains
Roots
roots, while tube C
doesn't.
doesn't. Okay, that's it. Moving to part 6. Compare the level of water in tube B to that in tube C at the end of the experiment. Tube B to that in tube C at the end of the experiment. Here the comparison يا جاد الرصاص, you should include the variable factor. يلا compare يا جاد.
It says in tube A
B
there
and
was
C. Pay attention, pay
uh,
attention, pay attention, pay attention. Tubes B and C. I didn't mention
uh,
A. Tubes B and C. Yeah.
in tube B the plant was still had its roots and was put in water.
Okay. Without
Uh,
mentioning water, in tube B, the plant contain having the roots. What happened for the level of water?
it decreased.
It drops so lower, lower. Yes.
While in tube C the amount of water was higher than
Wait,
the
wait, wait,
amount
wait.
of
In
water in
tube
tube
C,
B.
in tube C, you have to say the variable factor containing
Uh,
no.
uh, Containing no roots,
Very good.
only stem.
Okay. What
The
happened?
amount of water stayed the same.
It remains the same. It doesn't decrease, neither increase. So very good. So here we solve part 6, compare the level of water. Deduce the structure responsible for the absorption of water in green plant. So here, what is the structure, ya Ahmad Audi, that is responsible for the absorption of water? Which part of the plant, which structure in the plant absorb the water in green plant?
The green plant's root.
The roots. So the roots,
Yes.
they absorb the water. Here is the first part, we're going to talk about the roots. So roots here, the plant having the roots, the level of water it decreases. While in the plant having no root, the level of water, it stays the same. So the structure responsible for the absorption of water is the roots. So Here, what is the variable factor between both tubes B and C is the presence of roots. In tube B, we have roots. In tube C, we don't. Compare the level of water in tube B to that in tube C at the end of the experiment. So the level of water in tube C, where the plant does not have roots. So here I mentioned the variable factor. It remains the same. Here, someone is going to ask me, why didn't you say, for example, it decreases or it's higher than, it's lower than? Here, mostly, it's increases or decreases comparison according to no values. We don't have values. If we have values or numbers, yes, I have to say it's greater than the level of water in tube B, which have the roots, it's 50, let's say, which is less than the level of water in tube C, which is 100. Okay? While here we don't have numbers, so you have to compare it like this. While in tube B, where the plant has roots, here we have roots, they are dipped in water, meaning that they are immersed in water. Yes, guys, let's continue, please. Sorry for this problem. So here we continue. Okay, so that we have the level of water in tube C. So the level of water in tube C, what happened for the level of water? Where we have the root, we don't have roots, it remains the same. However, when the plant they have roots and they are dipped in water, the level of water decreases to a lower level. So here, what can you conclude about the structure responsible for the absorption of water? Sure, it's the roots. So the roots, it's the one responsible for the absorption of water in green plants. So if you wanted to observe a root closely, a root contains different parts. Two of the most important parts, they are the root cap. Here, this part is called the root cap, and here we have the root hairs. These hair-like structures, they are called the root hairs. These are the root hairs as well. Okay, so in the outside of the root, we have these structures. They are the parts of the root. So let's see which part of the root, the root cap or the root hairs, or both of them, they absorb the water. So here in this experiment, we have two plants, plant 1 and plant 2. In plant 1, we have water and oil as well as plant 2 or tube 2. In plant 1, what did you see here? Let's observe. So I want to new voices. I want to use, let's say, Ibrahim Tairik. Good morning. So Ibrahim, what is the difference between the two tubes, 1 and 2? First of all, don't look at the result. What happened to the plant? I'm talking about the conditions. So tube 1 and tube 2. Here we have tube 1, here we have tube 2. Both of them, they contain water. Both of them, they contain oil.
Water,
Both of them, they have root hairs and they have roots.
hairs.
Okay, so what is the difference? Look at these two tubes, Ibrahim. What is the difference between them?
Difference.
Yes. In tube 1, the roots, they are placed where?
Tube 1 الروتس كانوا بالواتر اما بالتيوب
And the
2
root cap
الروتس
also is in water. Okay? So this is the root cap. This part is called the root cap. It's placed in water. Okay? While also the root hairs, they are in water. So both of them, the root hairs and the root cap, they are in
water. اما بالتيوب 2 هن بالاويل.
Now, tube 2, the root hairs, they are where? In the oil.
In the oil.
While the root cap, it's where? It's here, at the end of the tube. So it's where? In water.
In oil.
So here,
water.
No, in oil. In oil, the root hairs. The root cap in water here. Root cap at the bottom of the root. Is the end part. Yeah, for example, this is the root. Here we have the root hairs, for example. And this is the lowest part. This is the root cap. On a root cap. Okay. So here the difference is the position of the root hair
cap
in tube 1 and tube 2. Both of them, the root cap is placed in water. In tube 1 and tube 2, both of them, they are placed in water. While the root hairs in tube 1, they are placed also in water. While in tube 2, they are placed in oil. So this is the variable, Ibrahim. Thank you. So let's move now to this experiment. They said indicate the variable factor in this experiment. The variable, from now on, you have to know that the variable factor is the difference between the two tubes. So the difference is the position of the root hairs, whether they are in water or they are in oil. Moving to the second part, distinguish the condition to which plants are exposed. First plant, plant 1, the root hair and the root cap, they are placed in water. However, in part 2, in plant 2 or tube 2, the level of water is the plant is placed in water and oil, where the root hairs they are in oil and the root cap they are placed in water too. So let's move to solve these parts. So the variable factor, it's which part of the plant, the root cap or the root hairs, they are dipped in water. Distinguish the conditions to which both plants are exposed. So in plant 1, what happened? The root hairs and the root cap, both of them, they are dipped in water or they are placed in water or immersed in water. But in plant 2, the root hairs are dipped in oil while the root cap is dipped in water. So I move to Ali Khalifi. Ali Khalifi, what I want from you is to analyze the obtained results. So you have to analyze the experiment shown in both tubes 1 and 2. Yalla Ali.
Yes, in tube 1, after we put the plant,
After placing plant 1,
after placing plant 1 in a tube containing water and oil,
yes, you have to mention the variable factor
and the,
where
and
the
the
root,
roots what the roots was in the water,
you have to mention both parts of the roots. What are the two parts? Root hairs and root?
root root cap
Root cap, where both root hair and root cap, they are placed in water.
and water.
What happened for the plant?
The plant growed normally,
Very good. While in plant 2,
while in plant 2,
yes,
after placing the plant in a tube containing oil and water,
yes,
where the root cap and the root hair was in the oil,
yes.
لا,
No, not
while
both
the
of
root
them, they
hair
are
was
placed.
in the oil,
Yes, root hairs, they are in the oil, and the root cap is placed
the root
in.
cap was water.
So,
Uh, so the plant
dies.
didn't grow normal.
Dies. It dies. Okay?
Yes.
So, what can you conclude about the structure responsible for the absorption? Which part of the root in specific it's responsible for the absorption of water?
The root hairs.
Root hairs. Why?
Because when they was placed in the water,
Yes.
the plant grew normally.
Very good. When they replaced in oil, the plant died. Thank you, Ali.
Oh.
So here, analysis. So after dipping, the root hurts. You have to use the word dipping from now on. Dipping or placing or immersing. But this is word dipping. This is a new word. So after dipping the root hairs and the root cap in water, the green plants, they grow wherever the dipping the root hairs in oil and the root cap in water, the green plant withers, meaning that تدبل يعني, and eventually it dies. Conclusion, so the root hairs, they are the part in the root that are responsible for the absorption of water in green plant. So here, the root hairs and not the roots, they are responsible for the absorption of water. From now on, first we said that the roots, they are responsible for the absorption of water. Now we have to say that it's not the roots, it's a part of the root, which is the root hairs. They are responsible for the absorption of water. So from now on, you have to be more specific. You don't have to say it's the root that absorbs the water. From now on, it's the root hairs. So the root hairs, they are important or they are responsible for the absorption of water in green plants. And also you have to know the different parts of the root hairs and the root caps, whether the root hairs and the root caps, whenever they are placed in water, the plant 1, it grows normally. However, plant 2, where the root hairs, they are placed in oil and the root cap is placed in water normally. So here the plant it dies. So here the variable factor is the position of the root hairs. Here the root hairs, they are found in water, while here the root hairs, they are found in oil. While root cap, both of them, the root cap, here is the root cap, and here is the root cap, both of them, they are placed in water. So the root cap is both placed in water in both plants, 1 and 2. But the difference is that in plant 1, the root hair, they are placed in water, while the root hair is in plant 2, they are placed in oil. So this is the variable factor between the two experiments. So till now, in this session, we discovered the difference between the different part of the roots, the root hair and the root cap, and also we identified we revised the different terms about the action verbs, the variable factor analysis, and also you have to know interpret. You have to review this and to remember this. Interpret, it's analyze plus indication. You have to know how to draw the table of conditions, and also you have to know how to convert a table into a graph and a graph into a table as well. And also you have to study that the green plant, they need 4 important nutritive needs. They need water, they need minerals, and also these minerals can be supplied in the form of fertilizers. They are rich in minerals. You have to know that we have different types of minerals, and some of them they are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and so on. They are important for the growth of the green plants, as well as you have to know that the plants they need sunlight in order to grow well. And we are going to talk about the sunlight and the process of photosynthesis in the next sessions. And we're going to talk about the fourth nutritive need, which is the carbon dioxide, CO2, where we have CO2 in one plant and the other plant it lacks CO2, meaning that it doesn't contain CO2. This is due to the presence of KOH. KOH, potassium hydroxide, is responsible for the absorption of the carbon dioxide. So this is everything related to our session for the plants, and this is everything related to the parts of the plant responsible for the absorption of water as well as their nutritive needs.